Hello and welcome to Behind the Laughs, the comedy podcast. I am one of your hosts, Andrew Parenti, and today I'm interviewing my dad, Mike, a comedian of 15 years, right?
Or so, yeah,
Something
15
like
or
that.
so. That's right.
Long time. What kind of made you wanted to start doing comedy in the first place?
Well, one of the reasons I started the podcast, Andrew, is because I actually specifically remember my first love of comedy. I used to watch the Dean Martin roasts, where people used to sit around and Dean Martin used to just drink and smoke, and he was the host of the show, and Don Rickles was the host sometimes, and they had all these celebrity stars on there, and they used to rip them and make fun of them, and there was nothing that was off limits, and everyone was laughing to the point of crying. And I remember watching that. I don't know how old I was, but I just was watching that thinking, not that I wanted to do it, but I just enjoyed watching everyone laugh so much that I just wanted to be a part of it. I was like, that is great. Everyone was just having such a good time, and no one was offended by anything. Yeah, and the energy in the room was just great. Like, it was just like this, everyone wanted a part of it. So I just remembered falling in love with comedy watching that show.
Oh, cool. So you were drawn to it almost.
I was. I was. I was a little kid too. I don't know how old I was. I don't know what year that was on. I had to be younger than 10 years old though. Wow. And if that was on TV, I watched it every single time, every single one. I thought it was just so funny, and I just got a kick out of it. I just watching people make fun of other people just to me was great, and no one got offended. They just loved it. And football stars like Joe Namath was on there. Like a lot of people you wouldn't think would be funny, really? And movie stars were on there, and it was just great. I just loved it.
That's awesome. A lot of celebrities.
Yeah.
So what about the first time you were ever on stage? What was the whole leading up to that moment, the night of?
Okay, so the first memory of doing anything on stage was we used to go to the North Shore Community Church, and one of the ladies who ran events at the church, she had a talent show. And one year she came up to me and we went out to dinner with them, and she knew I was kind of fun, and she goes, "Why don't you do some comedy at the talent show?"
Okay.
And I was nervous, but I wanted to do it. I was like, yeah, that would be fun if people laugh. That would be great.
Yeah.
And so she invited me to do it, and I think that's the show maybe I had you on, or maybe the second year I had you on.
I must have been 6 at the time, right?
Yeah, you were 6. And I'll never forget, I did, mostly I made fun of some people at the church because there was a guy in the church who used to raise his hand all the time. His name was John Morkin. And one of the jokes I'll never forget is, how you could drive John Morkin crazy, put on a great worship song and handcuff his hands behind his back. And I did a lot of that. I made fun of the pastor. And I made fun of a lot of people in a good-natured way, and they were rolling. Because
That's awesome.
Because I was family there, so I could make fun of them, and so that was just an amazing experience. And after that, it's not that I wanted to do comedy, but I was thinking, wow, I'd like to do that again.
Yeah.
I left there thinking, I'd like to do that again. Now, if I really bombed there and it was really awkward, I probably wouldn't want to do it again.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because that was my first venture into it, and it just went so well that I got this great feeling from it. But if I bombed there, I don't think I would have wanted to do it again.
What do you do to get over your nervousness? Do you even get nervous at all?
Yeah, during the podcast, I've been asking a lot of comics those questions, that particular question, Andrew, because I'm kind of fascinated by it.
Yeah.
Because my level of nervousness is just so different from show to show. And after doing it 15 years, I feel like I kind of have it a little under control. But I was just thinking about this the other day. There's always one point leading up to any show that I have a complete anxiety attack.
Really?
It could be for 5 minutes in the car with you. Sometimes on the way there, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what I get myself into?
Yeah.
There's always that doubt. It creeps in, but it creeps in hard. But leading up to the show, a lot, it depends. Sometimes I feel somewhat okay. There's always a level of nervousness, but what I've been doing in the last couple of years that have helped me tremendously has been praying before the show. And sometimes God completely takes the nervousness away before I get on stage. And sometimes he just takes it away enough so it's manageable. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure why I get so nervous sometimes.
Yeah.
I think I just want to do well, and I want everyone to have a good time. I'm not really destroyed if it doesn't go that well, but I want everyone to have a great time. I want it to be
good.
like on that thing I watched as a kid. I
Yeah,
want it to be
yeah.
that. That's what I want it to be. That's my vision for it when I get up there, that people would be rolling to the point of crying, because then I know everyone had a good time.
Yeah, you wanted to give everyone that same experience that you had almost.
Yeah, I want everyone to just be like, forget about everything for a little while and just live in the moment. And so I definitely get nervous. Sometimes I'm at an 8, 9, or a 10 almost, depending on a number of different items. Sometimes it's your diet. Sometimes you didn't get enough sleep. Sometimes it's because you're afraid of what kind of show it is, if it looks like a sleepy crowd. Sometimes I'm a 2 or 3. But
Okay.
there is always one moment before every show where I have full-blown anxiety.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I don't show it to you or anyone else because
I've
I don't
never
want you to
seen
get
it,
nervous.
yeah.
You're with me, and I don't want you to say, "Oh, my dad's nervous." I don't know, why is he nervous?
Yeah, yeah.
There's always one moment, and sometimes it's even like on a, maybe if it's a Saturday, it could even be like on a Tuesday. Like I start thinking about this, and like I start to get like really anxious about it.
Yeah, really
Like,
bad.
oh my gosh, like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't even know these people. Somebody called me on the internet to do this thing. I don't. Maybe they're gonna kill me when I get there. Like, I have full blown anxiety for a
Yeah.
little while, and then I kind of calm down.
Okay.
So I get it.
That's-
It's there. Some guys, I don't know. It doesn't look like they ever get it. I get it though.
Does your nervousness ever affect how you perform on stage?
I'm sure it
Like
does.
the way you do.
I mean, I'm sure it does. It feels though, and you and I have had this discussion in the car a little bit, that my level of nervousness has nothing to do with how I do on stage. Sometimes, if I'm really nervous, I get up on stage, I get a few laughs, I'm off to the races, and I don't think about it the rest of the day.
Wow.
So it didn't affect me in that case.
Okay.
So I don't know if it really affects me, but if I'm really nervous and I start out really slow, that's that could be a problem. If I'm at an 8 in terms of nervousness out of 10, and I start out slow in a place that I don't know anyone and I'm not comfortable,
Yeah.
it's going to get worse. So that but I think after doing comedy 15 years, one of the things you'll learn is that sometimes you just have to relax and have a good time, no matter how it's going, and regroup a little bit, and it'll be okay. So it definitely affects you if you're nervous.
Absolutely.
The more relaxed you are, the more relaxed the audience is.
Yeah, they could sense it almost. It's
They
weird.
can. They
Yeah.
can. It's like they can. They could smell fear in the audience. So you might not see it, but sometimes I'm panicking in my mind.
Yeah.
But I might act like it's all okay because I'm hoping it'll start to be okay. I'm assuming it's going to start to be okay at some
Praying.
point. Yeah. And I'm just going along pretending this will be fine and they'll catch on and they'll follow me, but it doesn't always happen.
I could see that.
You've seen it. You've seen the good and the bad.
When you were first starting out at comedy, like a lot of people, they want to like kind of get famous from comedy. Was that your goal at the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I probably took a weird route, because I don't know if I wanted to be famous, but I thought I could definitely do this. I felt like I had enough skills to do it somewhat, but when I watched somebody really seasoned like Keith Anthony or Carrie Carabas or some of these people that I started with, they started way before me. I didn't feel I could ever be at that level. So I never felt like, hey, I want to be as good as them.
Okay.
I never felt that ever. So my goal was just to kind of enjoy it and do what I can, instead of doing 5 minutes, make it to 15 minutes. Really, my goal was just to start to be relaxed and enjoy it. You don't really enjoy it in the beginning.
Okay.
You're so nervous, and you only have 5 or 6 minutes, and you almost enjoy it when you're done, and you can watch the rest of the show, and if you were good, then you kind of enjoyed the night. But now I have times where, like, I'm enjoying being up there an hour. It's just, like, so much
You could
fun.
go and
I
go.
could just go and go. So, I was just hoping to get to the point where I just kind of would enjoy it. And it wouldn't
That's
be
awesome.
like, terrorized the whole week thinking about this time I was going to do on stage.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen for a long time. I think about my 10th year in comedy.
10 years.
Yeah. I would say the nerves are still there, but I started enjoying it more. And not worrying as much. So I think my goal was
Wow.
just to enjoy it.
Okay. Be the best version of you that
Be
you
the
can
best version of me.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, the best version of me. I think when you can get up there and people kind of really know who you are, then you're okay. I'm not just telling jokes. I'm kind of sharing my life with people in a funny
Yeah.
way. So I didn't think I'd ever get to that point, by the way. I don't think,
Really?
when you first start, you never think you could kind of talk that freely about personal things and what really goes on in your mind sometimes
Yeah.
in a way that's not
It's a
offensive to
vulnerable
people.
thing
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah, and some of the people who do it the best or the most vulnerable on stage seem to be the best comedians, the most real comedians, and they're really great. Yeah, so no, Michael, if I started when I was 18 and like I dropped out of college or I didn't have a full-time job or I wasn't married, yeah, I probably would have pursued it. I probably would have like pursued, say, hey, I want to be a comedian. This is what I want to do. I'd go all the clubs and I probably would have kind of worked at it. But I was already had a career and wife and kids, and I was actually making okay money. And there's no money in comedy, so I didn't really see that it was a choice. It never struck me as like
really an option.
Yeah, it's like it's not something you do for a living. I mean, even people that are great at it don't make any money. Like, so I don't know. It's true. The people I see on stage like kill, and they go into Manhattan and make $25 on a Monday night, like at Dangerfields. Like, so I didn't view it as that at all.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it as a career. I still don't. Think about it as a career. I just one show at a time.
Do you think you ever could have made it if you had pursued it?
I think I made it now.
That's a nice answer.
I like to make what? Like, the only way you could really make a big living in comedy is to become famous. Yeah. Like doing like a Ray Romano show or
Specials,
Kevin James.
Whatnot.
But those guys got lucky, and they didn't get lucky. They were great, but they got on a sitcom, and then they became famous, and then they made money. They didn't make money doing any comedy.
That's a good point.
No, so what was your original question?
So do you think you ever could have made it if you really had gone for it?
I think I made it now. I mean, I do comedy, and I headline mostly everything I do now, and people call me, and I don't need the money, which is great. So I'm enjoying it. I mean, in my opinion, if you're going to do comedy, you have to do it to enjoy it. If something happens, that's just an extra.
Okay.
Now, if you're young and you have a lot of time to invest, there's a better chance that something will happen. Like, Andrew, if you wanted to do comedy full time, like, I don't think you should expect to have a career out of it, but you have a lot more time and effort to put in to perhaps get discovered or be in the right spot at the right time where somebody asked you to do something. And I look at Terry McNeely, who's on all these, he's on these shows in Manhattan. So he's doing some side acting. That's what you have to do. You have to hustle, and you have to do acting and stuff. I just didn't have the time to do any of that.
Okay.
But making it to me is like making like a lot of money doing it. I just don't know anybody who makes a lot of money doing it except the famous people. Yeah. Like Sebastian Maniscalco is making big money now, but man, he was waiting on tables 5 years ago.
Yeah, struggling to pay rent.
He was struggling to pay rent. He could never get married or have kids or anything. Finally, he started opening for Dice Clay. He got a break opening for some big people.
Yeah.
And he's a great comedian, but he was this great when he was poor.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to reconcile how you actually make it in comedy, but if you start younger and if you're really good and you do it full time, you have more of a chance, I think, to maybe get on TV and commercials and stuff. You don't really make it in comedy.
No.
You just don't make it in comedy. There's no money. No one's going to pay you to do comedy.
Yeah.
You know what you could make it in comedy? If you had, like, let's say this podcast, or you had a YouTube channel that went viral and you were funny and you went to perform and you had 1,000 people come see you, then you've made it in comedy. Because now anybody will hire you and you can make great money because they'll pay you a lot because you're bringing in the people.
Exactly.
If you can't bring in anybody and nobody knows who you are, no one's going to pay you anything. So making it is weird. Like I see these comedians I know, like Carrie and Keith, they made it. I mean, this is good. They're great. It's only by chance that they're not famous, Yeah. I mean, they've done everything they could.
Is there any advice you would give someone if they were to try comedy tips for new comedians?
It's funny when we watch people on stage, I like people who, when they get off the stage, I know who they are. I don't really care if they're that funny. I want to know what bugs them. I want to know about their family, their brothers, their sisters, their job. Like, I want to know what makes them tick as a person. Yeah. So when people get up there and just tell jokes, like canned jokes, like you can get on Google.
Knock jokes, that kind of.
Well, they're just like canned. It's just like cornball. And then they go off the stage. I don't know if they're married. I don't know if they have kids. I don't know anything about them.
Barely know his name.
To me, some of them have very funny acts. That's like an act. But my advice would just to open up who you are and share who you are on stage. I think that's the funniest thing because everyone has a lot of their quirks and their crazy thoughts about people, and the way we interact with people, we're all kind of crazy.
Yeah, everyone's a little crazy.
Everyone's a little crazy. I mean, I am too. I just cover it up. Some people don't cover it up, but if you can share that little craziness you have on stage, it's very funny. You don't have to be ultra personable, like an A personality to get on stage.
yeah.
You just have to be willing to share, like, who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people like that. And if you're not dead funny, you'll have fun. They'll like you too. That would be my advice. Try to keep it as real as possible.
Yeah. Plus, being real, it could help you through some hard stuff. Like, Keith lost his arm in a car accident. And through doing comedy, he said that almost helped him a little bit get over that. It's a big loss. He said it helped him get over it. Almost
That was
therapeutic.
interesting, right? We were talking about that. But you know what he said too? It's good for other people. That they were more relaxed around him because he was a comic. So they didn't have to feel uptight about him either. So not only has it helped him, but it's helped them. He was real. He's sharing his life.
Yeah.
And he does this great rehab comedy for people in recovery, Andrew. And he's so good at that because he's in recovery. So he shares the stories about when he wasn't in recovery. And that's why he's great at that, because that's where he's most him.
Mm-hmm. He's home.
Another little piece of advice I give, if you could find a little niche, that would be good. Like I found like Christian comedy works for me because I go to church
Your crowds.
and they're really my crowds, and I have a little sweet spot there, and I think everyone has a little sweet spot where maybe they're strong, and if they could concentrate there, I think they could get more work there and more practice too.
How about the worst bomb you ever saw, or the one you ever did?
The one I ever did,
Yeah.
the one that I remember most, I've done plenty of bombs, was the run we did recently, you and I, at that nursing home, because it was a double bomb. It was a double bomb.
Did 2 shows.
I
that
bombed
night.
twice, back to back. I've never done that before, because usually after one bomb, I'm like, okay, I'll pick it up the next one. And so for the people listening, this was just epic. This lady invites me to do this. I guess it's like an assisted living hooked to an independent living, and each place has their own people and their own activities. So she said, well, we want you to do comedy for these people at the
nursing home.
It's assisted living, but it's a nursing home.
Yeah, kind of.
And they were going to be eating dinner, and I'm like, is the crowd lively? Because I always ask questions because I'm nervous that it's going to be a disaster. And she's like, yeah, they're very lively. They have dinner. We have singers, and we always have entertainment. I'm like, oh, okay. I get there. There's like 8 people. And they're sitting like 20 feet away from each other. This was before the coronavirus, Andrew. They were sitting so far away from each other. And they gave me a microphone that didn't really reach them. So I was like
other side of the room.
40 feet away from them, and I couldn't get any closer to them. And when I was talking to them, they couldn't hear me because they were all hard of hearing. So every time I was like, hey, what's your name? They wouldn't even look at me. I couldn't even get any type of interaction with them. It got so bad that at one point I was asking them, what is your favorite movie?
Yeah.
Remember that, Andrew?
I died.
I just started going around asking
What's
them
your
questions.
favorite movie, sir?
Just because I just wanted them to
Half the time they didn't even answer
They
that.
didn't even answer. It was a disaster. That was about 40 minutes. You did maybe 10, 7 to 10, and I struggled through 30 or 40. But Andrew, you remember I did no joke. Did I even do a joke?
No.
I don't even do a joke because nobody
You
was
might have
listening.
started with it,
I didn't do one
right
bit.
away.
I didn't do any dog bit. I didn't do bits about my kids. Not because no one was listening. And I'm kind of a storyteller, so unless they're listening to the story, there's no point in telling it.
Yeah.
So I just started trying to improv. But remember those ladies who were like, go away. They were like waving me off. They're like, go away.
You're like, hey, what's your name? And they were waving you away like, no, go.
So that was brutal. And then after that, immediately after that show ended, which was a disaster.
We had to do another one at that same place, right?
Yes, we got into an elevator, went downstairs, and they had like every Tuesday night they have like a special meal, whatever it is for these people.
Okay.
And the place was kind of buzzing. Like we went in there, there was 60 people in there.
Everyone was talking, having
people
a good
were
time,
talking, and they were sitting down. I'm like, and they had a stage, and I was like, oh, this will be okay. This will be better. This will be better. So Andrew, you got up there and you did whatever 7 or 8 minutes, and it wasn't great. Like they really weren't listening too much. But you got some laughs on some things, right?
Yeah. Plus, I think the mic was a little
they had one of those cordless mics that kept going in and out. That really helps when you're bombing, by the way. If you want to add on insult to a bomb, get one of those cordless mics that's running out of batteries.
Oh, and it's not even like when it dies, it like just turns off. It makes like a really loud buzzing sound.
Yeah.
Like a whenever it turns off.
Yeah. So, I started talking to them, and I was getting some response, but not nearly what I thought I was going to get. And at one point, it wasn't going that good. So I usually jump off my material and go into the crowd, try to talk to somebody and kind of draw them back into me again. You see me do that. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes what I say there was like two nuns.
Oh,
remember there was two nuns,
yeah.
And there were two nuns sitting with these people. Their backs was towards me. And I was just like, hey, excuse me, you're a nun. Did you, beat the kids in school? Like I got beat by the nuns, and she didn't like that. That really wasn't funny. They didn't find that very funny. They ended up not only not laughing, but they kept their back turned to me the whole show, and they were right in front of me, and everybody did the same thing. So I had maybe one person.
They were the round tables, never.
Yeah, they were all round tables, and so maybe 5 or 10 minutes in, they start bringing out filet mignon to these people. Oh, that was it for me. I mean, the filet mignon was the plates were clanking, and they were eating, and I was like, I should be singing like some Sinatra or something in the background here. I don't know why I'm here. They have no interest in what I'm about to say. I had to struggle through 30 minutes. It was so bad that by the end, actually, I started doing karaoke. Remember?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah. I did Sweet Caroline at the end or something. Like I said, let me end with something since my jokes aren't working. I actually ended with a karaoke song, and I mercilessly got out of there. And you know what's funny, Andrew? They didn't pay me that night, and I was actually afraid to call up and ask for my money. I was like, they're not going to pay me. That was just, it was a double bomb. That was like 4 hours of bombing.
Oh my, yeah, it was a 4-hour ordeal.
No, I remember that the most. I mean, I've had like rough sets, but I don't think I've had to do 40 minutes back to back without getting laughs.
Just not a single.
That was 80 minutes of like complete disaster.
I remember one of the waiters came up to me too and handed me a note, and I read the note and it said, "Tell your dad he's a legend," because he's up there.
I'm just sucking it so bad. I was just dying up there.
Keep going.
I just kept going. I mean, they're paying me to go. I'm gonna go. I can't control if they don't listen, but it is. I have to tell you, Andrew, it's no fun when that's happening. Like I know I got paid, and I don't know what I got paid that day. It wasn't terrible, but I'd rather not make any money and not do that show.
Yeah.
Like I'm in it for the fun. I'm not in it for the money. The money is
awesome. You don't want to have to dread.
Yeah, the money's a validation of my that I'm doing. I have an act in it, but boy, I'd rather not get paid and not do that show at all. That was it. And you know what's funny? I'll never forget. The next show after that was that show we had, that Christmas party we had, and that guy wrote me that crazy review. Maybe it was one of the best sets I ever had. Do you remember that? He wrote me a review on Gig Salad. So it's a funny thing. Like, I just bombed twice for 80 minutes, and then I go on my next show.
You destroyed that show,
and I improv'd a lot, and I just had such a good set. And, that's how comedy is. Like, you can't give up, and you just never know. And that's why and that's why I get nervous. I don't know what it's gonna be. I don't want it to be the bad show.
15 years later, you still don't know.
15. I have no idea what's gonna happen. I don't know how I'm gonna be. I don't know how they're gonna be. I don't know if I'm gonna connect with them. They're not all like Christian audiences. Yeah. And some of these gigs we get hired for, like, they're used to having like a singer in the background. It's not all comedy shows.
Yeah. Some people just assume like it's the same thing. You can get a singer and you can get a comedian. It doesn't work like that.
It does not.
Certain venues you can't have it. Like you say all the time, like outdoors at a kid's birthday party you got hired for once. It doesn't work.
Yeah, no, it's not. You can't throw comedy in like everything else you could throw in. You can't get a clown, a magician, a singer, or a comedian. It doesn't work like that. No. If you're gonna do comedy, you do comedy. Comedy doesn't work on every. Those other guys you can get any time. You can always have a singer or something in the background, and maybe they'll listen. Maybe they'll talk while they're singing. Comedy is a whole different vibe.
You need the audience.
Yeah, and that's why I only watch live comedy. Always people ask me about these big comics on TV and Netflix. I'm like, I don't know who they are. Like, I've never heard of them. Or I barely heard of them. And they're like, you do comedy, you don't watch comedy? Never. Because to me, live is like where it all. It's so good. I'd rather watch a bad live show any day. Because there's this weird kind of energy in the room that makes it special.
It's kind of like you're involved almost. When you're watching it on TV, it's just not the same feeling.
Yeah, when you're at a show, you're involved. And if a comedian's talking in the show, we like going to shows, Andrew and I, not performing. We enjoy taking the night off and we're going to see and when the guy's talking, we're part of the show.
Yeah.
We are part of the show. It's not like that on TV. It's a totally different vibe on TV. It's more of a movie. And I think live comedy is the only way to go.
Yeah, like I can't watch baseball on TV. I'll get bored out of my mind. But live, it's a whole other feeling. Yeah. It's almost the same kind of thing. That's cool. What about the worst bomb you ever saw? Like witnessed?
I'll never forget this. Did I ever tell you the story?
No.
The George Gallo story? I mean, if George ever listens to this podcast, he's a great comedian.
Okay.
He's a headliner. Almost every time I see him, he kills. But I saw him at the Paramount Theater. He'll remember this too. So the Paramount Theater is like 1,500 people, and they started doing comedy there. It's a big venue, and I think Austin was with me, and they had a couple of comics up, and they all did well. And George Gallo gets on stage, and for some reason, he had a video guy following him around. So he walks out on stage, and there was a guy with a camera, a big camera, following around. I think what was happening is he was taping his set that night. But like no one knew. Like, so he didn't say anything to the crowd either. He didn't say, "Hey, excuse this guy, I'm taping myself tonight, so maybe you guys could." He didn't say anything. So like we kind of thought, maybe is this guy part of the act or something?
Yeah.
So he came out with a broom sweeping, with this guy following with a camera. And maybe I don't remember it right, but it didn't work. People like, what is going on? And then he got up on stage and he started, and he's kind of the way he does comedy is he's not a storyteller. It's more expressions, and he'll say this or that, and he didn't connect, and it was dead silence for 1,500 people. To the point where they started booing him and cursing at him to get off the stage. Me and Austin were there. I was like, Joey G was there. It was a comic I know from those days in Chesterfield. I've never seen a bomb like that ever, because it was so many people, and it was such a good show. Like, they were laughing. He got up there and he brought that show to a screeching halt. I was the worst bomb. I'll never forget, because I was so unnerved. Because I'm a comedian. I want him to do well. I was rooting for him, and so to see him do that, I was living there with him one day, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was on the stage with him the whole time, and
poor guy.
And I saw him get off stage and talk to someone, and he was fine. He was just he knew it. He knew he bombed, but he's an adult. Like he just, and I was amazed that actually, because if that happened to me, I would have ran out the back door. And I would have went to Venezuela for 2 months.
Changed my name.
You wouldn't have heard from me. He just came off the stage. He was like a man about it. He was like,
Good for him.
He was like, that didn't go too well.
You don't say.
I asked Austin. He was with me. That was just brutal. That was the worst moment. Just because it was such a big crowd, and it was a good crowd.
1,500 people. Someone's gotta laugh.
I think Keith Anthony actually closed that show, if I'm not mistaken, because he was there. That's why I went to see. Yeah, Keith Anthony's just crazy. You've never seen him live. Wait till you see him live.
So how long was he supposed to do, the guy who bombed?
I don't know. But it wasn't long, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't know how much he did, though. I would have ran off the stage after 3.
Yeah, I would have said.
And the whole time, the guy was filming him. And the guy was like, the video guy was like rotating around him. It wasn't like he was stationary in the corner. It was so strange. It was so weird. I think that was part of it. Like, people were like, what is happening? Who's the guy rotating around him?
Oh, poor guy. So we just sat up there and ate it for 15 minutes. Was there ever
ate
a point
it
where
hard.
Did he just leave and say, "All right, I'm done," or did he try to finish?
I don't think he got a laugh. No, I don't think he got one laugh. And you know what? I was so hard to watch at that point. I don't even know how it ended. I don't know how it ended.
In your eyes.
It was just terrible. So I'll tell you a good follow-on to you. You asked me how I did comedy. This is good. I've only told a couple of people this.
Really?
So after I did a comedy at the church, and it went well that time. I went to Governor's one night because I love live comedy.
Yeah.
And Mom didn't usually go with me because I went with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And they had these pamphlets, be a stand-up comedian, take our comedy class.
Oh.
And so I got it, and I was like, wow, I should do this. But you know what's weird? Like, I was actually nervous thinking about doing it.
Really?
I was like, yeah, I don't know. This is gonna be, you have a big graduation show and you get on stage at Governor's at a real club. Like, that's very intimidating if you never really did. I mean, church comedy is one thing. I said, I'm going to take this class, but I'm not going to take it now. So I put that into my briefcase for 5 years.
5 years?
5 years. The reason I know is because, like, I was actually going to throw out my briefcase, and I got a new one, and I started clearing out stuff that was at the bottom of it, and I pull out this thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like 40 years old now. If I don't take it now, I'm never going to take it.
Yeah.
And so 5 years later, I actually signed up for the class. So I think I might have put I had that in there for 5 years thinking about doing it, but I just was too nervous to do it.
It's intimidating.
Yeah.
It's understandable.
Yeah. So that was just funny that I always it had it like it was like I wanted to do it.
Yeah, there was always that little like blockage there. Though.
But it was just like, no, I don't know. It's gonna be hard. It's hard.
No, it is really hard. Yeah.
It's hard, but I took the class with Carrie. She's amazing, and everybody in the class was. I made some great people, and then I had the graduation show.
Was it even crossing your mind, like what happens if this like show goes to hell? Like...
I mean, I think about that at every show, but then I think,
fair.
well, what's gonna happen? You know, when people driving home after a comedy show, I always think about this. They're not thinking about me.
Yeah.
They're already on to their own problems, or
People
their
think about themselves.
whatever
It's a natural...
Netflix they're gonna watch, or their spouse. They're done thinking about me. So I'm not that worried that I'm gonna stay with them for 3 weeks. Dude, shit, Mike Parenti, he's terrible. What are we gonna do about
They're not
it?
gonna talk about you at the dinner table.
Yeah,
right?
like so I'm not worried about that. It's just embarrassing to do bad, really.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a very competitive person, like, you know, and especially if everybody's doing well and you bomb, you know, it's embarrassing. It's like you weren't prepared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I mean, if everybody's killing and you don't do well, but that's not even always the case with comedy. It's such a weird dynamic.
Yeah.
If the audience doesn't
Little
like you
things
right
here and
away
there.
and you just kind of rub it wrong a little bit,
It could really screw
it
you
could
up.
really, yeah, they just don't like you. Like, they're like, I don't know what this guy's doing.
Yeah.
Why is he up there? He's not funny. And then you start thinking, so, you know, there's just a lot to it.
What about the second time you performed at Governor's? You were saying how...
Yeah, I didn't do so well that day.
Really?
Yeah, it was a lighter crowd. Vanessa Hernandez came. She sat right in the front. She was fine. She brought some of her friends. I remember her because, you know, after the show, she was like, I've seen you better. I was like, I've only performed once before. But she was right.
Boy.
She was just being right. She was just being honest, and she said it nicely. I just was. You know what I did? I ended up writing all new material.
Oh, like from scratch.
Yeah, I
completely.
you know, I write a lot of material, so I wrote a whole new 7 or 8 minutes, and maybe a minute of it was funny. The other 7 minutes was more like rambling.
Yeah. Okay.
And I didn't have punchlines and stuff.
Just wasn't that polished.
It just wasn't good. It just wasn't good.
Okay.
And I met Keith Godwin in that class, and he actually had a really good night that night. And he did
Really?
really well. Yeah, my comedy class was when I took it the second time. He was in it the first time.
Oh, cool. What about would you consider that your first bomb then?
Yes.
Is there one? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but yeah, that was definitely my first bomb. I didn't get many laughs, and I didn't deserve to. I was not funny.
After that, how did you like redeem yourself?
I don't know. You don't think about redeeming yourself. You know, after that, you know, we had a lot of open mics going on in Long Island. Like in all the comics, you know, the one thing that the class taught us was go to open mics.
Just practice. Yeah.
Like, you know,
It's the one way
Carrie
to
would
get
actually
good.
tell us which open nights or which night. And like everybody would pass around a sheet of where all the open mics were. It wasn't like on the
cool.
internet now. So like all the comics went to all the open mics. Except the guys who were like really kind of you know, like real comics. So
Yeah.
So we ended up just doing all the open mics, and then, you know, kind of everybody bombs on those. Nobody's really listening or anything. I brought you to a few of those. They're brutal, right?
They are rough.
So we just, you know, we just did those until, I guess, one day I had a good set, and I got my confidence back. But I was kind of having fun, and for the most part, I was okay.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, I had a couple of good moments up there. It's like golf, you know. If you go for 4 hours and you hit like 3 really great shots, you're gonna go back again.
Yeah. You're like, whoa, that was cool. I'm gonna, yeah.
Yeah, and comedy was the same way. Like, you didn't need it to be great the whole time. If you had like some really good moments where you kind of felt comfortable and you got like a big laugh, you want to try to replicate that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, even though, and I think that's how most of the newer comics go. If they have some good feedback somewhere, you could build on that.
Is there really any other like better feeling than doing really well on a stage?
No, I mean, you know me well, Andrew. When I'm
I do.
killing for an hour, how am I enjoying myself?
Yeah.
I mean, do you ever see me that animated and interested in anything?
I see you glow up there.
I'm glowing because I'm just loving that everyone's like it's not about me controlling them like some people say it's in the palm of your hand. It's just that they're having a great time. And if they're having a great time, I'm having a great time. Like, so, because they're enjoying the story. So, like, when everyone's, like, laughing, I mean, if I go out to dinner with 4 or 5 people and I'm making everybody laugh, I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
It's the same
It's
thing.
cool.
Now I have 200 people laughing. I mean, there is nothing better. And the reason I say that, too, is because, like, if you have something good happen in your life, you make money in the market, whatever, you feel good for that day. But, like, I mean, I'm good for, like, 4, 5, 6, 7 days sometimes.
Really?
Like, that'll carry me for a long time. Like, if if I'm just killing and have such a really good set, it's not the same feelings when you're on stage, but it lasts a long time. Like when you performed at the Improv that time.
Yeah. Oh.
Was that just a day? How long did you feel like kind of good about yourself?
I'd say at least like 3 days.
3 days. 3 days.
I was like, wow, I did really good.
Yeah. It's like a little bit of a euphoric feeling for days.
Yeah, it's like that. You get that little high from it.
Like a
it's runner's high.
Yeah, and you don't get that anywhere else in life. If it is, it's just a fleeting moment here and there. But yeah, when you're like just crushing it, and people, and then and everyone's had such a good time, it really is. It's amazing. There's nothing better. That's why people do it.
I couldn't agree more.
That's why people do it.
Yeah,
it's addicting.
It is. How did you start headlining?
Well, after Keith talked a little bit about this. I'm not going to bore everybody with the details, but me and him started a company, Comedy to Go, for a while, and I started producing shows. The only reason we started the company was that we could actually produce a show and then give ourselves stage time. So if we did a show, we could hire a headliner, Keith would host, and I would do the middle. So you put yourself on stage.
Okay.
And we'd have great shows, and we wouldn't give ourselves the wrong spot. If we weren't ready to do 10 minutes, we didn't do 10 minutes. But we had given ourselves a lot of time there. But what I found out was running a company was no fun. And I got into comedy for the fun, and we ran this company for a long time. So every comic we didn't use would call us and text us every day, say, why aren't we using them? We're funny than the other people we're using. Keith didn't talk about this at all. It was so annoying. People constantly would reach out to us. They'd see a flyer and say, well, I'm funnier than him. I'm funnier than him. Why are you using him? And people would get mad at us. And we used to pay people after the show. And some comics accused us of actually not paying certain people certain things, even though they weren't even in the show. These comics who were not in the show used to accuse me and Keith of not paying people enough, and they weren't even in the show.
What?
So yeah, I don't want to get into the details for you, but it's such a bad business, and there's a lot of idiots in the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're running this company for years, and little by little, what's happening is these shows, 200 people used to come, and I used to have to sit people down, take reservations, and by the time I didn't want to get on stage after that.
You're tired.
I was exhausted, and it was stressful because I was organizing it, and Keith and I were organizing it. Then I produced a Jackie Mason show at the Tiller Center. I was like, oh, I'll make a lot of money. I'll produce famous people's shows. That was a disaster. I lost money on that. Oof. And then I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is no fun. So I quit. I quit for 2 years. I didn't do any comedy. Really? I told Keith, you could run Comedy to Go. I'm not interested. This is too much work. We weren't making hardly any money. People think you're making all this great. There's hardly any money to be made. And I'm like, so... And then what happened was, I forgot why I got into it for the first place. I didn't get in to produce shows or to make money.
You just lost sight of it?
I just lost sight of it, because I kind of got excited, and then I started going down a direction that kind of was presented it to me myself. Opportunities presented myself to me to produce shows here and there, and people brought up ideas that I liked, and it sounded like maybe I could make money. And I'm kind of a business person inside, so anytime there's an opportunity for financial gain, I'm like, hey, that sounds interesting, and I could do comedy too. Making money in comedy is the best thing, right?
On paper, it sounds great.
Yeah, it's like a vacation in Disney. It sounds great until you get there and you're on a 3-hour line, right? It does.
Yeah.
It sounded great. And so it took me down a path of this is awful. I'm not making money, I'm not having fun, and I'm not performing. Or I'm not performing much.
Yeah.
So it's way too much work. So I'm like, I told Keith, you can have Comedy to Go. I'm done. I don't want to do any comedy.
Yeah. It sucks.
So I quit. And I had no intention of doing any comedy anymore. I just really feel like I had my enough. Because this was 3 or 4, 5 years of it. And I was doing it a lot. And I had enough. So maybe 2 years.
Downs.
Yeah. I had maybe 2 years I quit. It was about 2 years. And Samantha from A Little Bit of Heaven emailed me one day. And she asked me if I wanted to come down to A Little Bit of Heaven and do comedy. And I thought about saying no, but the audiences there are so good, and I had such good responses there. But I wasn't there that much. I had been there maybe 3 or 4 times, not a lot.
Okay.
And then when I got there, I kind of told her, I was telling her I'm kind of quitting. This is just too much for me. And I think it was that night, Andrew. She actually had me headline that very night.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if I told her afterwards I was going to quit. I had quit or whatever. So me and Rich Walker are in the back room together, and she tells Rich Walker's like a big comedian. He headlines everything, right?
Yeah.
Mike Parenti quit for 2 years. I come back, and she goes, Rich, you could open up, and Michael close it. You got to see his face. He was like, "What are you talking about, Samantha? Mike hasn't performed in 2 years. I would have done the same thing if I was him. I'm like,
what the hell's going on?
So I looked him in the eye and I said, Rich, everyone's equal in heaven. Samantha, a little bit of heaven. He was fine with it. He was fine. He was just surprised. I was more surprised than him, right? So he leaves, Samantha leaves, and I'm sitting in the room hyperventilating by myself in the back there.
Yeah,
saying,
2 years
saying, why am I closing the show? Like, I barely have 20 minutes worth of material, right?
Yeah.
And then, it just, like, I started praying quietly, saying, and thinking, I was thinking, Samantha knows what she's doing. She's been running that show there for almost 30 years. Like, if she thinks I can close, I could probably close. Like, who am I to say I can't do it? She thinks I can do it. She has confidence in me. I could do it. And I destroyed that night. I mean, I had, and there's such a great crowd there, and they like me. Yeah. And I probably did 40 minutes, and I just killed. And, I did a lot of improvising, and I relate to them. As a Christian, they relate to me better. That was my crowd.
Yeah.
Turns out, that's my crowd. I just didn't know it because I hadn't been there enough. So I think after the show, I told her, listen, I'm not really performing anywhere else. So whenever you want me to do this, and she was like, oh, really? I thought you were like a big, busy comic. I'm like, busy comic? I've been losing money for 2 years producing shows, and no one else will have me on stage. That's what I told her. She goes, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, seriously. I said, I'll even host your monthly show for free.
Wow.
She had so I volunteered to host her show. She has like a talent show once a month. So I volunteered to host that because what happened was it was fun again. I think this is fun. I don't have to bring people in.
You don't have to set anything up.
I don't have to set anything up. I could show up and there's a great crowd and go home.
That is nice.
And so she had me headlining there for a couple of years, and what that did was I wasn't really good enough to headline, but they're so gracious there that she was able to give me 30, 40, 50 minutes or an hour to kind of work out my material. And that's what it was. I worked out my material. I worked out all these bits I do now. I got them down to a science. I knew the laughs were, and then so after a while I had them. Then I introduced a new idea. And they would even laugh at the concept, but then it took a little while to, massage it a while. So
mold it.
Most people don't get that chance, Andrew. Like I got a chance to do 40 minutes to an hour when I wasn't that good. Now I fill the time.
Yeah.
And I was okay, but I got a chance to, a lot of comics never get that chance. Who gets a chance to do 40, 50 minutes when you're not that good?
You got me there, yeah.
Nobody. Where around here can you do that? Nowhere. None of our shows we go to, you can't do that. So, God had me in the right place at the right time, and that's the only reason I didn't quit. It was because of Samantha, and she just constantly reached out to me and asked me to do things. And every time I went there, people were very gracious, and I could be myself, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
I could be myself on stage. I didn't have to worry about being perfect or having a punchline or bombing. People don't bomb there. They're a gracious crowd. They're rooting for you to do well. I've never seen anybody bomb there. Have you ever seen anybody bomb there?
No, the people that are the sweetest, they're the best audience.
Yeah, so I built my confidence up and my act in a place that was willing to accept me. I know it sounds cornball, but it's exactly what happened. And then
that's the reason you're here today. Probably.
That's the reason I'm here today. And I'll tell you another thing that I just thought of. So I moved down here, and I didn't have a website or anything, and I didn't know what was going to happen with the comedy. I wasn't worried about it because, like I said, I wasn't pursuing comedy. I figured once in a while I go back and do Samantha's, and that'd be fine. I didn't have much of a goal for this whole thing. So, Samantha was talking to me one day or emailing me, whatever she usually emails or Facebooks, and she was like, why don't you sign up for Geek Salad or Geek Master? Okay. And I'm like, what is that? She said, those are websites where if people need comics, they look for comics. I never even heard of it.
Really?
So, because of her, I set up a website down here, and then I signed up for these websites, and I had put a video up. Next thing you know, people are calling me to do retirement centers by myself.
Wow.
And I never once in New York did I get a call to do anything by myself.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot of venues down here that are looking for like a one-man comedy show.
Yeah, just little things here and there, corporate things, like you said, right? Yeah.
Yeah, New York, it's mostly, I don't know, it seems like there's a lot of people producing shows in New York, so you really can't get anything on your own. I guess you could, but down here is it's much more spread out and independent, so I go on Geek Salad, I put that video up there, and all of a sudden, once a month, I'm getting a call from somebody who wants me to headline and do the whole show. Now I had the time from Samantha's, so I wasn't that afraid. But I really probably wasn't good enough to even do it then.
Yeah.
But if someone's looking for a Christian comic, I'm sorry, there's not too many guys better than me. That's my sweet spot.
Yeah.
If you're not a Christian comic, I doubt you're better because, I know kind of what they want. I can't do recovery comedy. I don't know what they want.
No, not at all.
So there's a lot of churches and stuff. We're looking for clean Christian comics. There's a lot of churches down here in the South. So I got lots of those gigs. You came with me on some of them.
I did. You did.
Some of them were great. Some of them were okay.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't have taken anyone unless they were a Christian person.
Yeah. They just want a clean Christian comic, and you really can't find that.
There's not a lot.
No.
There's not a lot. And so, the last 5 years or so, I'm getting more and more and more work. I'm getting referrals and stuff. So
that is nice.
I'm at the pinnacle of my comedy career right now, believe it or not. And I'm probably more comfortable than ever. It just takes time. It takes time to be somewhat comfortable.
Are you ever really truly comfortable?
When I'm killing.
Yeah.
When I'm killing.
Fair.
Because even if I'm killing and I hit even 2 minutes of dead spots, I don't care. Because I know I've already killed.
Yeah.
Even if I don't have another laugh, you know what I'm saying? So then it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. But I'm not nervous at all from killing. And if from the first 20 minutes on, even if it tails off a little bit, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you are comfortable when you're killing.
Have you ever asked Samantha why she put you up for that first slot, or why she called you in the first place to do comedy?
I probably have, and I can't remember exactly what she said, but I know she. You know how you like certain types of comics. This is the best that I could explain it. I love Sebastian. Now, a lot of comics who are listening to this don't think he's that good. They think there's a lot better comics because I'm Italian, I relate to him, and he's my style of comic. He's a storyteller.
Okay.
He talks about his family.
Yeah.
I'm Samantha's type of comic. She likes my style of comedy. And that's the best answer I give you. There's better comics that she has there, but she loves the way I tell stories about my wife and my kids and stuff. And I think there's not a lot of comics that have gone there that are my style. So I think she really enjoys my style of comedy.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so, if the guy who books shows loves you, he's going to book you.
Yeah.
So that's the way, Samantha had her circle of people that she used, like the comedy clubs. They use the same people all the time. They use who they like. Not necessarily the best people.
Yeah, but it's who they enjoy.
It's who they,
That's really what it comes down to.
Me and Keith Godwin ran that company. We used to use Stevie GB all the time. We're interviewing him on Friday.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's a great comic. There's a lot of other comics, maybe similar, maybe a little better, but he was just such a nice guy to work with. He was easygoing, nice guy. He was good all the time. So we used him a lot. We liked him. And so we used him a lot.
You don't want to work with an ass.
Yeah. We work with a lot of people who are great comics who really weren't very nice people, and we didn't use them again.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
And so we book shows, so I understand. So the people who book shows, if they like you, you're in a good spot.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be the best comic, but if they like something about you, your energy or your act or a combination of both, you're in a good position.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, maybe she'll hear this podcast, maybe she'll agree or not, but I think that's what it is. I think she likes my style of comedy.
Yeah.
So Andrew, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for interviewing me. I hope somebody learned something. One other thing before we sign up. So tell me what you think so far about the podcasts. Have you learned anything?
Have I learned anything? I just love listening to comedians talk about their experiences. Everyone is so different. It follows the same mold almost, but everyone is completely different. The way they started, the way they view comedy, even. It's something really fascinating that I'm really excited for the next one.
Yeah, it's weird too. I'm actually getting a little nervous before I interview people. I know some of these people, but I'm like, oh, I hope this goes well. Because I really don't know much about these people. When you see them at a show, you don't really comics don't talk to each other, right?
Yeah,
and so you try not to pretend you're not nervous, and you're trying to be cool and stuff, but you don't really get to know them.
No.
But I feel like I'm really getting to know comics through these interviews, which is great. And I think someone said, Keith Godwin made a great point the other day. He's like, chess is like comedy. You could never perfect it.
Yeah.
And so no matter how good someone is, I know they could appreciate bombing and being nervous.
Yeah.
And also one thing about comedy is it's not, if you grow up being a singer, you could just sing other people's songs. And you could become famous from singing other people's songs.
Yeah.
You cannot do that in comedy. Everyone's act is original. And so
100%.
it's so hard. You have to write and develop and act out something out of thin air with no music, no background, and no
Yeah.
support. So
And you need the audience to be listening to you. It's not like music where you could just play and have people eat in the background. You need that audience. You feed off of them.
Yeah, you
almost.
feed off them. And so that's why it's unique interviewing these people. Everyone is unique. Everyone has a unique story. Everyone has a unique act. And so that's why it's like fascinating, and that's why we were thinking of talking about doing it. And I just thought, it'd be so much fun. I mean, Scott Papakuri, I could talk to the guy for 6 hours. The guy's so much fun. And Keith Godwin gave a great interview, and Carrie Carabas. An hour went by. I could have done another 2 hours with her because I feel like we just scratched the surface with her. She's been doing comedy so long. I feel like we didn't even get to a lot of her good stuff.
Oh yeah.
She's just got so much stories and so much good stuff. So
I'm trying to keep these short. It's hard.
Yeah.
There's so much juice packed into there.
The best show I've ever seen that represents comedy is The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. You watched all 3 seasons with me. Would you say pretty accurate on the comedy side?
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't go on stage expecting to be as good as her.
Yeah.
But
the story feels real, right? When she's up there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it feels real. She
bombs. She does great.
She
has it all right there.
Yeah, and she talks about her family and stuff on stage. I think it's a must watch.
The way she molds her material, you even get to see a little bit of that.
Yes.
Testing it out on stage, seeing what works and what doesn't. It is terrific.
Yeah, it is terrific.
It's the closest thing to.
Yeah, I think if you're a comic, you need to watch that show. I just think it's so much fun to watch, and it seems like it's real.
Yeah, it really does.
All right, we should sign off now.
Yes. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for joining me.
Listening. Yeah, no, I had a good time. We're going to try to get, Andrew, our goal is to get 100 of these out.
100
and then take a break and reevaluate.
That sounds
Let's just concentrate and get 100. If they're bad, they're bad.
What should we
if
do
good,
for
they're
our
good.
100th special, 100th episode?
I don't know. First, this would be like 4 or something. Let's just get 100 out there in the wind and see what happens.
Sounds good.
I know. If anybody wants to give us any feedback, we're new. We'd appreciate it. Tell us it was terrible. Tell us you liked it. Tell us too long, too short. The beginning. Give us recommendations. We're open to it. We're new at this. We want this to be fun for everybody.
We want you all to enjoy listening to this.
So give us some feedback. Mike and Andrew signing off.
Thank you and good night.